Today we're exploring one of the most gentle and powerful systems ever created for personal change. A Japanese method that teaches you how to break any bad habit, not through force, not through willpower, but through the smallest steps your mind actually feels safe to follow. By the end of this video, you'll understand why certain habits have held on for so long, how to finally work with your nervous system instead of against it, and how tiny, consistent shifts can quietly reshape your identity from the inside out. You'll walk away with a simple, practical approach you can begin using today, one small step that leads to the next, until change stops feeling like a battle and starts feeling like your natural way forward. Let's begin. Every habit begins as a whisper, a quiet impulse, a small decision you don't even notice you're making. And yet, the smallest decisions become the architecture of a life. The moment your hand reaches for the same comfort food, the instant your mind drifts toward the familiar distraction, the reflex of postponing what you said you would do today. Most people imagine habits as dramatic events, the day they quit, the day they start, the day they finally change. But true transformation rarely announces itself. It arrives in the smallest increments, almost invisible, like the way dawn expands without anyone hearing it. And if you've ever wondered why breaking a bad habit feels like wrestling with a shadow, or why willpower collapses the moment life gets difficult, the answer is simpler and more human than you've ever been told. Your brain is not built for sudden revolutions. It is built for smallness, for micro-adjustments, for quiet consistency, for steps so modest, the nervous system doesn't resist them. This is why so many people fail. They try to change at the speed of fantasy, instead of the pace of biology. They declare, tomorrow I'll quit forever. Tomorrow I'll transform my entire life. Tomorrow I'll be a new person. But tomorrow comes with the same brain, the same patterns, the same emotional signatures encoded over years. Japan has a word for the approach that actually works, a method that has saved careers, rescued health, rewired addictions, and rebuilt lives. Kaizen. It means continuous improvement through the smallest possible steps, not heroic leaps, not overnight reinvention, but tiny shifts so gentle the old identity doesn't feel threatened. Kaizen is not a productivity hack. It is not a motivational slogan. It is a psychological doorway, a way of walking past the inner guard dog that protects your old habits. Because every habit, even the harmful ones, is something your brain believes keeps you safe. And safety, even false safety, is the most powerful religion the nervous system knows. So Kaizen doesn't fight the nervous system. It collaborates with it. Think of a person who wants to stop overeating. They don't begin by restricting everything. They begin with one micro shift, a single glass of water in the morning, a gesture so small that the old pattern doesn't panic. Think of someone who wants to stop procrastinating. They don't attempt a 5-hour work sprint. They begin with 2 minutes of presence, sitting with the task, breathing with it, allowing the resistance to soften without force. The mind accepts smallness. It resists revolution. The Japanese understood this deeply. They knew that consistency is born from achievability, not from pressure. So Kaizen works in whispers, 1% adjustments, a few millimeters of improvement, habits that ask almost nothing at first. Because here is the truth most people miss. Your brain does not fear change. It fears the size of the change. Kaizen became famous in manufacturing, but its real power is human. It helps a person who feels lost create a path. It helps someone in emotional pain begin healing without overwhelm. It helps someone with a lifelong habit finally see a way out. And the beauty of Kaizen is this: you never have to leap. You only have to step. Imagine someone who has struggled their entire life with a pattern. Maybe overeating, maybe anxiety, maybe avoidance, maybe addiction. They don't begin by attacking the problem. They begin by changing what the brain believes is possible. Kaizen starts with the identity underneath the habit. If you see yourself as a procrastinator, you will procrastinate. If you see yourself as someone with no discipline, you will confirm that belief without even realizing it. If you see yourself as broken, you will repeat the habits of someone who is broken. But if you see yourself as someone who is capable of one small step, the mind begins to reorganize. Identity shifts quietly, in the same way erosion reshapes stone, one subtle contact at a time. This is why transformation never feels dramatic at first. It feels almost too simple, too easy. The ego hates this. It wants fireworks, it wants the big moment. But the nervous system, the deeper intelligence beneath your story, wants something different. It wants gentleness, consistency, safety, repetition. Kaizen gives the brain what it truly needs. It teaches you to walk again, not as someone forcing change, but as someone becoming change. You are not trying to break a habit. You are forming a new relationship with yourself, one tiny promise at a time. And if you stay with me, we will go deeper into the emotional resistance, the nervous system patterns, and the hidden psychology of why small changes create massive transformation over time. But for now, let this idea settle. You don't need to change your whole life. You only need to change the next small moment. When most people try to break a habit, they focus on the behavior. But Kaizen focuses on the inner climate that makes the behavior possible. Because no habit is isolated. Every habit is connected to an emotion, a belief, a memory, a nervous system response shaped years before you ever noticed it. And this is where most people get discouraged. They think, why is this so hard? Why can't I just stop? But the truth is not that you're weak, or broken, or unmotivated. It's that your habit is sitting on top of an invisible structure, a structure built from repetition, stress responses, and survival patterns. Kaizen doesn't try to destroy that structure, it quietly rewires it. Let's talk about why small steps work so powerfully. Every time you make a tiny shift, so small your nervous system doesn't fight back, you're sending a new message to the deeper layers of your mind. We are safe to change. This is the sentence your brain has been waiting for. If change feels threatening, the old habit wins. Not because it's strong, but because it's familiar. Your nervous system is always choosing familiarity over improvement. This is biology, not personal failure. Kaizen honors this reality. Instead of triggering the alarm, it slips under it. Instead of forcing transformation, it befriends the mind that resists it. Imagine this: a person who wants to stop binge eating. They don't begin by removing all the foods they enjoy. That creates panic, scarcity, rebellion. Instead, they add one tiny ritual: a single glass of water upon waking. A micro shift, a tiny signal. This is Kaizen's brilliance. The first step should be so small that success is almost guaranteed. Because success, even a microscopic one, creates momentum. Momentum creates identity. Identity creates consistency. And once identity shifts, habits follow effortlessly. Let's take another example: procrastination. When someone says, "I'll work for 2 hours," the brain senses risk, time pressure, potential failure, emotional discomfort. But if the promise becomes, "I'll sit with this for 2 minutes," the brain relaxes. 2 minutes is harmless. 2 minutes is doable. 2 minutes bypasses overwhelm. And once the resistance is softened, the nervous system often allows you to continue longer. Not because you forced it, but because you didn't frighten it. Kaizen is not about discipline. It's about state. When your inner state changes, your behavior follows without force. This is why the Japanese approach is so transformative. It understands something modern self-help forgets. Smallness is sustainable. Smallness is powerful. Smallness is honest. But there is another reason Kaizen works. A reason deep inside your neurobiology. The brain loves closing loops. It loves finishing things. So when you complete a tiny action consistently, your brain receives a hit of accomplishment, not from intensity, but from completion. And here's the secret most people never hear. The brain does not reward big accomplishments. It rewards frequent ones. A giant breakthrough gives you one dopamine spike. A tiny step repeated daily gives you 365. This is why small changes outperform dramatic ones, always. Kaizen also disrupts the emotional cycles underneath habits. Most bad habits aren't logical. They are emotional agreements. The agreement might sound like, "I need this to relax. I can't handle discomfort without this. This is the only thing that makes me feel okay." Kaizen begins gently breaking those agreements, not by taking things away, but by offering tiny alternatives. A breath before the impulse. A sip of water. A 2-minute pause. These are not behaviors. They are disruptions. Soft pattern breakers the brain doesn't defend against. Over time, the nervous system learns something radical. I can soothe myself without the old habit. This discovery is liberation, not because you forced yourself to stop, but because your inner world no longer requires the old coping mechanism. In Japan they say, small steps invite the gods of longevity, meaning, The things you do gently are the things your life actually integrates. If you've ever wondered why you fall back into old patterns, it's not because you lack willpower. It's because you change too fast for your nervous system to feel safe. Kaizen restores safety, and safety is what allows the deeper layers of your identity to shift. Quietly, steadily, sustainably. Next, we'll go deeper into identity change, the emotional aftershocks of growth, and how Kaizen turns temporary progress into a permanent way of being. You'll see how habits are not broken, they are replaced. Not through force, but through the elegant simplicity of becoming the person who no longer needs them. At some point on the path of change, something unexpected happens. The outer habit becomes less important, and the inner landscape becomes the real transformation. Because every habit you've ever struggled with was never just a behavior. It was an identity you unconsciously rehearsed. A role your nervous system believed you needed to play. And this is the final doorway of Kaizen. The one most people don't know exists. The doorway where the self you once were begins dissolving into the self you are becoming. This shift doesn't feel dramatic. There is no lightning strike. There is no grand announcement. It feels subtle, almost invisible. Like noticing you breathe differently. Like waking up one morning and realizing the old craving isn't speaking as loudly. This is the moment when the brain stops fighting the new pattern and begins identifying with it. And identity always wins. You are not trying to be consistent anymore. You simply are. You are not trying to choose better habits. You simply prefer them. You are not battling impulses. The impulses have matured into something calmer, something quieter, something aligned. This is how true change happens. The kind that doesn't collapse under stress, or fall apart during a difficult week, or crumble the moment life becomes heavy. Most people try to break habits from the top down. Behavior, discipline. Kaizen works from the bottom up. The nervous system, the identity, the emotional roots beneath the behavior. This is why small steps matter more than dramatic ones. Small steps do not scare the ego. They do not trigger the inner protector. They do not activate the survival mind. Instead, they create a gentle opening, a soft invitation, a new possibility. And this is where the quiet magic of Kaizen truly reveals itself. The habit doesn't break. You simply outgrow it. Imagine a snake shedding old skin. It doesn't fight the shedding. It doesn't resist the new. It expands, and the old layer naturally falls away. Human transformation works the same way. You don't break the habit. You become a version of yourself who no longer requires it for comfort, or escape, or emotional survival. This is why Kaizen is both gentle and profound. It respects the truth that the nervous system holds. Growth must feel safe in order to last. And once it feels safe, your entire inner world reorganizes. Neural pathways soften. Identity shifts. Old coping mechanisms lose their charge. You begin to live differently, not because you force yourself to, but because your system no longer resonates with the patterns you once repeated. This is why the Japanese speak of Kaizen, not as a strategy, a way of walking gently, but steadily, toward the person your soul has been waiting to become. So if you feel discouraged, if you feel you've tried and failed, if you feel the old habit still has power over you, take a breath and remember this. The smallest shift you make today is more important than the biggest intention you made last year, because the nervous system listens to action, not promises, to consistency, not willpower, to gentleness. Kaizen honors who you are right now, while quietly guiding you toward who you are becoming. So let me ask you a question, one that only you can answer. What is one small step you can take today that your future self will thank you for? Not the big leap, not the transformation, just the next gentle inch. Because your life is not changed by one decision. It is changed by one decision repeated. When you take that step, no matter how small, you begin the journey of returning to yourself. That before we close, there is something else worth remembering. Every transformation you've ever made, even the ones you've forgotten, began the same way, with awareness. Awareness is the quiet spark behind every shift. It is the moment you see your habit not as a flaw, but as a message, a signal from a younger version of you, who needed comfort, or protection, or escape. Kaizen doesn't force that younger self to change. It walks with them. It says, we don't have to leap, we only have to take one gentle step together. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, You begin reclaiming the parts of yourself you abandoned while trying to survive. You rediscover your capacity for presence. You rediscover the strength hidden beneath softness. You rediscover the truth that you are capable of becoming someone new, without betraying who you've been. So if the path ahead feels long, let it. Long paths build deep roots, and the roots you cultivate through Kaizen are the roots that keep you steady when life asks you to grow beyond anything you've known. This is how the future unfolds, not through force, but through gentle inevitability. And now, as you step into the next moment of your life, ask yourself softly, what is the next small step that honors the person you are becoming? If you found insight in this video, please subscribe for more teachings to support you on your path. Before you go, ask yourself one question. What is one small step you can take today that your future self will thank you for?